So, everybody at home, we are going to do a garden project for the last 9 weeks, and I realize we're already 1 week into it, but we've got a freeze possibly coming toward the end of this week, so maybe it's good that we didn't go ahead and plant. I think by the time this weekend rolls around, maybe Saturday or Sunday, hopefully most of the freezing weather will be done with. Hopefully through with our last frost, and then you can plant. So if you want to take part in the garden project for class, which will be a 100+ point grade, really I'm still thinking about it, but it's going to be at least 100 points. And so here's what you're going to do. You need at least 4 plants, okay? 4 different plants. So that could be like tomatoes, peas, cucumbers, squash, whatever you want to grow. I would try to grow stuff that's probably like warmer weather crops, because now we're getting in the warmer weather season, and once you get into like late April and May, it gets so hot. If you grow something, really, if you're growing peas, it's probably going to be too hot for them. Potatoes start to die usually by that time. Yeah.
Does it have to be like food plants?
Yes, I want it to be produce, because I want you to grow something that you could actually eat and use. Okay, so one day if the apocalypse comes, then we'll all be prepared. At least you people will be, and everybody else may starve. So you're going to have 4 different plants. I want at least half of these plants, and I would like for all of them to be from seed. Now, that's going to take a little while. If you want to have a couple of these types of plants that you buy, like a little Bonnie plant or something from Lowe's or Home Depot, you can. But I would prefer you start from seed just so that you see that process. And so ideally, what would happen is you're going to let this run for 7 or 8 weeks until the end of school. You'll turn it in, and then you'll keep growing this in the summer. And usually what happens every summer, Colby, is by the time summer rolls around, I start getting emails about midsummer. And it's like, hey, look at my cucumbers, or look at my tomatoes, or look at my squash, or whatever. And so a lot of people are surprised that they're able to grow their own food. It's really not that hard if you take a little time and effort. Set a couple alarms on your phone each week where you make sure you go out and water. That's the biggest thing, making sure they have enough water. And once you get them started, once you've done kind of the prep work, then usually there's not much after that except for making sure that they have water. And that there's not a lot of bug pressure. Sometimes like tomatoes will get those hornworms on them, and sometimes aphids and other issues. But most of the time, predators are probably the least of your worries. Making sure they have enough water, they don't get dried out, or usually the biggest issue is animals in your yard eating them. So you may have to create some type of barrier or something, or put them in a some type of pot so that they're not, something doesn't give them if you got a problem with like a dog that digs or something. So you're going to have 4 different plants. You need to have 3 or 4 of each one. So like if you have tomatoes, get 3 or 4. If you plant, tomatoes are kind of hard to plant from seed, but you can try it. I mean, it's not that hard. You could buy them if you want to. The greenhouse has them for sale out here through the special ed department. Or let's say you do something like beans. So you start growing beans or squash or watermelon or something like that. Plant at least 3 or 4 of them. That way, what you're going to do is over the course, once you get them planted, so week 1, or I guess week 0, well, we'll say week 1. Week 1, you're going to plant, okay? And then every other week after that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is going to be, you're just going to measure. Measure and water, okay? And so you're going to have 4 different types of plants. You're going to have 3 or 4 of each one. And once you get them planted and set up, all you're going to do is go once a week, make sure they got water. You may actually want, if it's dry, you may want to go more than once a week to water. But at least once a week. And then also once a week you're going to measure. So you'll take a ruler and you're going to measure the height of your different plants and then just average them together and just record it. So it shouldn't take long to write down at the most 16 plants, okay? You'll measure them, average them, write them down, and then at the end of the project you're going to go through and you're going to graph that data. I've got a few questions that I'll have for you at the end, but we'll do that closer to the end of the project. You'll go through and graph it and do a little analysis of your experiment and problems you had and observations you made. And then you'll turn that in probably the last week of school. Okay? So that is the plant project. I think it's a good idea that everybody can grow, try to grow something, especially, y'all are almost adults. It's at the point where y'all should be able to plant seeds and grow something. And regardless of where you live, if you're out in the country or you're in the suburbs or you're even in an urban area, you should be able to grow some food, even if it's just an herb garden. So talking about, it doesn't have to be necessarily a big produce, but it can be like an herb or something small if you want to, that you may keep on a windowsill or you keep on a little balcony. Biggest problem you're going to have if you have something in a container or like a planter is when it gets hot and dry, it's going to dry out very quickly because it's above ground. There's not as much to hold moisture in, so it's going to dry out really quickly. So you will have to monitor that more if it's in a container or a pot, so that it doesn't dry out, and you'll probably have to water a little bit more often. Okay, but if it's close by, it should be easier to do. Any questions?
How long does a watermelon take to like fully grow?
You'll have to look on the packets. Usually when you buy like a packet, and probably the easiest thing to do, Jason, if you're going in with seeds, is just to like say, hey, do you want to go in with me and I'll get a couple seed packets and you get a couple, and that way you can just share seeds. And so I would say probably 70, 80 days if I just had to guess. So if you plant now,
It's gonna be like
around 4th of July. Yeah, so around 4th of July, you should have some watermelon available. My daughter planted some pumpkins the other day. I don't know where she got the seeds from. She's like, yeah, my pumpkins are coming up. And I was like, those are going to be up and made like in July. I was like, you're going to have to really plan if you want to have pumpkins for, October. Because a lot of times they'll rot or they'll get moldy before then if they have to wait, if they sit outside for a long time. So generally you want to wait to where they probably make mid-September or right at the end of September. Yeah.
My grandma, she went to Japan for a few months after, like, in October, and she got back, like, February, and
Yeah.
she had a pumpkin on that she'd left, and it shriveled and dried up, and it's like, looks like this, that looks really cool.
It dried all the way up?
It dried all the way up, just sitting on her porch.
Was it one of the small ones?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the small ones, because they don't have as much moisture and stuff inside, they may not get as messy. But those big ones, they always get like rotted and nasty. My chickens love them. They love the seeds and stuff in the inside. Bless you. But yeah, that's something you have to be careful of if you're planning out like you want something at a certain time. But I mean, like watermelons, if you like watermelons like me, you may want to plant, a couple watermelon plants every week. You go out and put a couple every week, and then you got some watermelons, and you have some more in a couple weeks later. It's the same way with like planting corn. Like I like sweet corn, but if you plant a huge block of sweet corn, it's all going to ripen pretty close at the same time, and then you're going to either have to store it and save it. Where the better option a lot of times is just to plant like a small little square, and then a couple weeks later plant another one, and then it usually doesn't take that long to plant, and that way you've got kind of a continuous food supply. So if you're into planting or you want to get into planting, it's really not that hard. You just got to find a little space where you can do it. Seeds aren't that expensive, and you can grow your own food, and you know where it's coming from, and it's a good skill to have later on in life. Okay?
You need like a lot